Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Everyday is Saturday. I'm Matt Stahl, along with my partner, Brad Gatto, and happy 2023.
Wow. Can you believe it's 2023?
No.
It just sounds weird.
It does sound weird.
I know we get used to writing these numbers out and saying it, but it just doesn't, when you grow up in the Back to the Future era, and you thought by now we'd have hoverboards and shoes that tie themselves and things like that, to say that it's 2023 just sounds weird.
Does sound weird.
But it is. So here we are. And we're doing it.
We promised last year was our first annual year in review.
Yep.
And to keep to that promise, which we try to do at any opportunity we get, we're going to continue to do that each year. So today is the year in review for 2022. If you tuned in last year, number one, if you didn't tune in last year, just for the sheer entertainment, I would recommend that you tune in last year. I threw a little bit of a curveball at Brad last year, and I put him on the spot to answer a whole bunch of questions.
Yes, you did.
We're going to do the same thing again. He's not on the spot quite as much because he knew it was coming, but
I did not review the numbers.
You did not. So I'm going to be quizzing you again. So
even if I wanted, I wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have got it done. But so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the same format, the year in review by the numbers, and then we're going to share one challenge and one success that we think about when we look back at 2022.
Awesome. But before we do that, what's new? What's new in 2023 with the Stahl family?
What's new? We had our own little curveball. As anyone that knows us and has known us for a long time, we started this tradition of spending the holidays down in a little island down in Florida. We love it. It's like I call it a little mini sabbatical because you just number one, you don't have a choice. You just unplug from everything because there's nothing to do there.
Yeah.
And there's no cars, there's no grocery stores, there's no restaurants. So you're just kind of there. Hurricane Ian had different plans for us this year. So we had one house booked. The hurricane took out half that house. We had another house booked and came to realize that things just aren't really shaping up on the island. Unfortunately, I didn't want to end up spending my mini sabbatical feeling guilty about not helping people or spending the whole time doing construction. So
you want your sabbatical to be construction?
Not that one.
Why?
So we chose to kind of at the last minute, in the 23rd hour, to go to Phoenix area instead of Florida. And it was actually really, really fun. It was super cool. We had the opportunity to do some hiking.
Nice.
But here's a perfect example of why I appreciate that Florida vacation so much. And you'll appreciate this more than going somewhere else. So we have 4 kids. You have 3, according to me, but you really have 2.
2. I got 2.
So
and you'd be putting that kind of stuff in my wife's head.
But we both have all of our children, no matter how many we have, they're in sports or in activities.
Yeah.
So we both kind of have the same. You get home after coming home from the office and you go on to your second job, which is taxiing around the kids from here to there to everywhere. So there's often not time where we don't have something scheduled.
Yep.
That's one of the things I appreciate the most. And I think everyone else does, even if they don't come out and say it, is there's just nothing scheduled. So it's this 2-week break of free time. And the first day we get there, the house was amazing. We just stayed in Airbnb, had a pool, hot tub, a little grassy area. So perfect setup just to kind of kick back, chill out. And first day we get there, Katie, my wife, tends to head up the scheduling in our house. So that the very first full day we were there, about 3 p.m., she said, "Hey, we can go ice skating at a shopping mall 35 minutes from here." And there was part of me that wanted to speak up and say, "Okay, time out. We just got here. This is a perfect example of," but we were on vacation. It was the holidays. It sounded kind of cool. So I chose to zip it and just go along for the ride.
So you left Minnesota in the dead of winter, went to Phoenix.
Yep.
And ice skated.
And spent about over an hour to get there and back. And in retrospect, we did it for the gram, For Instagram.
Oh, the gram. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of old and crotchety when it comes to
Well, so am I.
social media.
I was gonna see if you picked up on it. Anyhow, the trip was amazing. We didn't fill it up with activities every day. We did some really cool stuff. A lot of it was just a lot of relaxing and and we timed coming back pretty well to Minnesota because it was extremely cold while we were gone and it warmed up a bit when we came back. So,
and we have a lot of snow here.
Oh my gosh. Are you the one that told me that we're 3 inches off?
Like 3 or 4 inches off our total, our seasonal average, what we get, which if you're listening and you're not from Minnesota, we can get snow in May. So we've got a while yet before we're out of the clear of any snow. So we could be well above seasonal averages if it kind of keeps up with the clip it's been.
Yeah. Goodness gracious.
We're just shy, I think 50 for the season so far. So, I mean, nothing compared to Buffalo, but
yeah, I love snow, but man, we hit the point where I was ready to take a break.
Well, I get it because I don't love winter.
Because you don't love snow.
I don't. But if it's going to be cold, there might as well be snow because cold and no snow is just brown. It's ugly.
He's turning around.
And it is very beautiful because not only has it been a ton of snow, but it was heavy enough that it stuck to the trees. And then it got really cold. So now it's like frozen to the trees.
Yeah.
And so now it looks like a painting.
Permanent winter
everywhere all the time.
Wonderland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you? What's the Gatto family?
It's 20, it's a different year, same thing. Right. It's we're still doing the same stuff. There's, kids are back at school, basketball. We're in basketball season right now. So tournaments on the weekends. We've had fun watching basketball. The best part about it is it's inside.
Yeah.
So
it is.
We get to watch the boys right now, and they're doing winter baseball clinics right now. So we're back in the full swing of things, but Christmas was good, man. It was, it's always a good break that week between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And we usually kind of make the rounds around Iowa because I'm from Iowa, but we've got family all over the state. So from the southeast portion of the state to the northwest portion of the state, I think in total between moving around to 3 Christmases, we spent about 14 hours in the car and went to 3 different locations, 4 different Christmases at 3 locations. And they made it home and then spent the next 2 days unpacking the truck.
How many Christmas carols did you sing?
0
in the car. What?
Not in the, we did have this new card game this year called Shotgun. It's like
Shotgun. No, I heard of
it's just like it's like a deck of cards and every card has like a different thing on it to do while you're in the car. Some of them they call dashboard cards, and it's like first person to see a wild animal, and you put it on the dashboard, and then whoever wins that one gets that card. Some of them are like challenges, so we did keep ourselves entertained with these dashboard cards, but no carols.
Oh, darn.
Well, it's technically after Christmas. We left like Christmas the day after. Like,
I feel you on that. That's what my kid Sam was Scrooge. I love Christmas, but on the 26th, it's over. Time to move on. Come on, people. It's time to move on with your lives.
Well, that was kind of the month in review of what we've been up to. So let's get to the year review.
Awesome.
Let's dive in.
All right. We're gonna dive in, and we're
can't wait to feel stupid again.
You're not going to. And so let's just review. I got to pull these up here. We're going to go through the same format we did last year. Similar to that, I added just one extra thing in here before we get started. So we're going to share these numbers in a percentage basis. And because the first time you and I weren't speaking the same language, we're going to make sure we're on the same page before we get started. Because I don't want you felt really dumb last time, but it wasn't because, or you said you did. And it wasn't necessarily because you didn't know the numbers, because we were answering in a different way.
Yeah.
So here's how we're going to stick to it. Now, if we're talking about percentage growth, and the previous number, let's just say it was $1 million, and the next year it was $1.2 million. That's 20% growth. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to say 120% growth. I'm just going to say 20% growth year over year.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. I'm being completely distracted by the fact that bobblehead that my employees got me is, it looks hysterical back there. It's not that cool up close. It's not that good of a replica.
It'll look cool on camera.
That was my Christmas gift from all the Fiat team members.
How crazy is this?
I have my own bobblehead now.
Can you believe this?
Holding my book. If you don't watch this, that's not gonna make any sense to you. But
why did they give you the frown?
The frown lines.
Yeah, look at middle of you don't frown that often.
I have those though.
Not right now.
See?
No, up between the eyes.
Oh.
See, you don't have those. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You don't do that very often.
Okay. We've derailed. Let's get back to this. Year in review.
Okay.
I feel like we need a drum roll. I don't know which button it is.
Okay.
If I just push a random one.
Yeah, do it. Well, that's close.
Good enough.
It's like that. Take that one too. That's like 2 seconds too long.
Yeah, that was too long.
All right. So our first category is client retention. So year over year, we have absolutely added families to our extended Fiat family. Client retention is how many of those that started with us at the beginning of the year were still with us at the end of the year.
But that's not just new families that became new families and chose not to leave in the first 12 months. We're talking about since inception, right? Since 2009 till today.
That is correct.
Okay.
So last year, what was that number?
I think it was 100% or somewhere.
It was 100%.
Yep.
This year, what's that number?
Well, this is the one that we did discuss a little bit ahead of time.
We did.
And so I'm going to give the disclaimer that I think I know the answer. I think it's 99%.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it is not 100%. For those of you that know us, we went through some larger transitions. A few transitions. And as part of that transition, which that happens, sometimes, people want something different than the direction you're heading. So we had a very candid conversation with a couple different clients, and we decided it made sense for them to go a different direction.
Or they decided.
Yeah. And we.
Yeah. So we had a couple families. Move to different advisory teams.
Yes.
Last year, based on some of the changes we chose to make.
On good terms.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't egg their house or anything.
No, but we do have to be honest. Our client retention is no longer 100%.
So that's true.
Wah.
Which one is that?
I don't know if I don't want to hit the applause button again by accident.
Hey. Okay. So the next category is what our language internally is AUM growth. AUM stands for assets under management. For those of you that are in our line of work, that will mean something to you right away. For those of you that are not, AUM, assets under management, is a measure of really how many assets are we managing. And
that was really profound.
Very
you can't use the word in the definition.
Well,
I learned that in sixth grade.
You explain it better.
It is the money that is under our advisement of the families that we serve.
Okay. Fair enough. That was better.
You're like, well, you do it. Okay, you're right.
All right. So year over year, our AUM growth. Now, for those of you that pay any attention to what's going on in the world,
unless your head's been in a hole.
As you probably are aware, not the greatest year in the investment world, no matter what area you're looking in, for the most part.
In other words, the market was down.
Yeah. Every financial market was down.
Yeah.
For the most part, with very small exception.
And to keep things super simple, we'll just measure by the S&P, the most popular index that people watch. Rounded numbers down about 20% last year.
So we can't control that, obviously. For those that think we can, further conversation is warranted. But where we started the year versus how much assets under management we added, what's your guess from a percentage standpoint for growth?
So to be clear, the way you're asking me this question is what the money that we advised on, what the number was January 1st of last year.
Yep.
Minus market losses plus new families, net, like where do we end up?
Take the market losses out of it, because again, we can't control that. So where do we start?
Okay. So you're just asking on new families that we
Yes.
brought on relative. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm going to say 30%.
That's a really good guess. It was 34%.
Boom.
Yeah. Nice. Quite
34%.
Yeah. Good job.
That number is going to get harder to keep high because obviously the more we grow, the harder it is to, on a percentage basis, grow at 30%.
Right. Yes.
Of a bigger number, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it last year? Do you remember?
From a percentage standpoint,
Yeah.
it was much larger than that. It was 50% plus. But again, we were smaller. So at that level,
That's why I was curious.
easy to, I know what the actual number was. And if I think about it, then it was between 50 and 60%. So
I'll take that. I like that.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Next one is revenue growth. So
better than a negative number.
Anyway. Yes. Well, and one thing that I will share in the beginning, despite not being anyone's favorite year when it comes to the financial markets, all around positive data to share. So from that perspective. All right. Next is revenue growth. So as a firm, our total revenue, and as a client, you may look at that and say, I don't care what your revenue is, but when you're running a business, fact of the matter is, yes, total revenue. Fact of the matter is, if you're not running a profitable business, you're not going to be around for long. And as you continue to grow, that means your revenue grows along with that. So from 2021 to 2022, what is your guess as far as revenue growth?
I feel like I should know this one. I feel like I'm going to put myself on the spot here because I think I'm going to be close.
I think you're going to be close too.
And I really hope that I am, because now I just said I think that I am. And if I'm way off, this is going to look really bad. So I'm putting myself out there. But I think it was around 34%.
So we have different categories. This is going to be based on the most basic category. I'll give you that before I
see. You said total.
Yeah, I know.
So I think I'm right if by total.
I think you are.
So too. Basic that goes, then that's let's see here.
24%.
Okay. So depending on how you slice the revenue pie.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes.
I think I was right.
I'm going to give you that one, actually.
I'm going to go 34.
Yes. Well, you know that one. We just talked about it on Friday.
I am much more in tune to the numbers this year, guys.
You are. Yeah. Which is good, because we'd be in trouble if
because now I own the whole company. Now I have to pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year at this time, I had never logged into our checking account.
Yes.
I didn't know if we were, I had no idea. We'll just say that. So that if I'm not doing better this year, then that's,
you are much better.
Okay, good.
All right. The final one that I think is actually
it's still not my day-to-day. Let's just be clear.
It's not.
Although you're not running it anymore, I'm still not the CFO.
You are not, but you are aware of.
I am more aware.
Yes. All right. Final one is actually, I think, the most exciting one, because this is growth of families that we were serving. So
shoot, this one, I don't know.
I wouldn't have done this one either. So I had to dig and ask some questions on this one. So year over year, then amount of families that Fiat Wealth Management
as a percentage.
As a percentage, yeah, the growth.
I'm going to say 18%.
Wow. 20%.
Ooh,
very close. Yeah, and I just nailed that down this morning, actually.
That's funny, because in my head I went to 20, but I was like rounding. I'm like, I'm just gonna go with I'm gonna tick it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that's actually much higher than last year. So.
Oh yeah,
that's exciting. Yeah.
What was it last year? Do you know?
I believe it was less than 15%.
Okay.
From that, that perspective. So
that doesn't surprise me. Like, if you look back, not because I think we're amazing, but just simply because when the markets move, people get skittish. More so, obviously, when they move down. Now, when they move up, everybody just kind of closes their eyes and nobody tends to pay attention. But when they move down, people tend to look and audit things that they didn't look at and audit before. And one of those things happens to be their advisor relationship. And so that doesn't surprise me that we, on a percentage basis, brought on more families last year, which again is saying a lot, because when you have more families to serve, to grow on a percentage basis at the same rate you did last year is harder to do, because it's more total families you have to bring on, right? And so the fact that we're at a higher number is pretty significant. But I think that in large part, I mean, I'm not saying that we're bad at what we do. I think we're intentional and we care and we're great, but is also because, the world forced people to pay attention.
Right.
So
absolutely. Last question. This is going to be,
I feel much better about this episode than last year's episode.
You're just gonna be you're gonna be walking tall.
I don't know if I'm ever gonna perform this well again. We're not doing this next year. We're not promising.
This is it.
Yep. Swan song.
Quit while you're ahead. Last one is going to be internal growth. So our Fiat team, as far as percentage goes, and that's a little bit of a tricky question.
Pluses and minuses.
Yeah, we had a couple people that moved on to other positions, which we're extremely happy for. We did add 4 people technically throughout 2023. So
23,
22.
Is that a premonition?
Move on.
Okay.
I told you. We're in 2023 now.
So you're asking net.
Yeah.
And as a percentage again.
Yes.
Okay. So net, I'm going to say 16%.
Oh, 17. Yeah. Well, and that was rounded. So yeah, you're very close.
16.667.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
See,
Nice. Look at that. But that
was all in my head.
Yeah.
17%. See, yeah. I do know who works here.
You do. That's one thing that you do know. You do have a good grasp on.
That was I was embarrassed for the podcast about last year.
It was awesome.
Well, yeah, for you.
It was comical. It was so fun.
Oh man.
I don't get to see you squirm very often. So it's kind of
and last year you had the element of surprise because I didn't even know what you were gonna do.
Yes.
This year, I did not think about it ahead of time, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But because of some transitions this year, anyway. So what's next?
Geez, I'm gonna give you an A.
Really?
Yeah, did great.
Like 93A or like 98A?
Oh, like a 94. Maybe.
Okay.
So
whatever.
I think it was a great job.
I'll take it.
All right. Last year, we also, as part of this episode, we looked back and we reflected and we just said, hey, let's pick out one challenge and one success.
Yep.
For the last year.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
How about we do the challenges and then the successes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on a positive note.
So, challenge. One of the things you and I have not been good at is choosing to take our challenges on one thing at a time.
That's true. That's very true.
So the biggest challenge was in the middle of the summer as we were go back and listen to past episodes. We were starting to, at the beginning of last year, starting the process to become our own registered investment advisory firm, which culminated over the summer. And then also starting in the beginning of the second quarter last year, culminating also in the summer was the ownership transition.
Yeah.
So we were trying to stand up our own RIA and change ownership all at the same time. So I think it goes without saying that my biggest challenge last year was doing those two things in tandem, and trying to make sure, because it's all about the clients, right? And the risks to ownership change to the clients are that we don't organizationally get it right. And if Fiat ceases to exist organizationally, then we can't serve our clients. And the RIA, same thing. If we don't get that transition right, there can be a lot of hiccups. I mean, things can go wrong and accounts can be traded incorrectly. I mean, just a lot of different things. And so just trying to go through both of those things at the same time and keep an eye towards the families that we serve and making sure that the transition internally wasn't going to externally affect them in any way definitely caused some restless nights,
right?
And some long work weeks. I think that those two things independent are very big.
They are, yes.
And then so to do them together is like trying to ride a unicycle and juggle when you don't know how to ride a unicycle or juggle. Right. But it looking back, as much as I think it was a challenge, like this is gonna sound completely egotistical probably, but I think we crushed it. Like there definitely, it wasn't perfect. We didn't do any of it perfect. Right. And if we could go back and do it differently, there's definitely a couple things we could change. But as far as making sure that the families we serve didn't have an interruption in service, that we didn't make, it didn't cause trade errors, it didn't cause any of that kind of stuff, I feel really good about.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same thing.
I'm glad I got to go first because then I don't.
I mean, I was going to say this, I'm going to say the exact same thing. I'll add a little bit to it just so I just don't say, hey, same thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we did a good job of bringing in external experts.
Yeah.
So not trying to handle, and I think we always do a pretty good job.
Are you trying to tell everybody we don't know everything?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Interesting. I actually think that's a mutual strength of ours. We also have very mutual weaknesses, but mutual strength is enrolling other experts that we can lean on in all these different areas. Even saying that, I don't think that any of those external experts that have a lot of experience in all those areas had ever had experience with those two things overlapping at the same time.
No,
because there were a few surprises that even those experts, didn't realize we're going to be part of that process because we had kind of layered those two things on top. So
I blame it completely on you. He just
vice versa. So same thing. I mean, it's just a whole lot of uncertainty. We live in the world of uncertainty.
Yep.
But I think we both hit our upper threshold of uncertainty in 2022 for a short little time frame.
We did. And this is getting, pretty personal, but I think you're going to be okay with me sharing this, but at the end of the day, you and I have been through 3 transitions from an ownership perspective together, with Fiat since it began in 2019. And it's always been far more amicable than people believe. Like when I tell outside sources, especially people that have been through transitions, mergers, acquisitions, and buy, sell a business and that kind of stuff, they never really believe me when I talk to them about how we've been through this 3 times and kind of how that processed out. I think the best example of that is our lawyer.
That's it. Yes.
That never, he's always trying to get us to argue, basically. This of the 3 transitions, this one was by far the hardest. And it did hit a fever pitch for a very short amount of time where not that I ever thought our friendship was at stake or that our long-term plan of you being a part of Fiat, even though you're not an owner anymore, was at stake, but it definitely presented challenges. And I think the fact that we're still sitting here today, the way that we are, just speaks a lot to, who you are as a person, and the fact that we made a point through this entire process to put the client first and make sure that the client got taken care of. And I feel pretty good that we accomplished that.
Oh, for sure. There's only one more thing that we could technically do from the standpoint of ownership change would be I turn around and buy you out. Wait, no, I already did that.
Yeah, you did that.
Right. Never mind.
Yeah.
So our attorney was.
We've both been on both sides.
Yeah. So, he just kind of shook his head and he's like, let me get this straight.
It's funny. I'm just putting this together in my head. Earlier this year, I read Matthew McConaughey's book called Green Lights, his biography. I never get this right. Is it autobiography? Is you write it about yourself?
It is, yeah.
Right. I think it's I think he wrote it. I think it's an autobiography.
I think it too. Yeah.
But Matthew McConaughey, it's a great book, by the way. Crazy story. I have a man crush on that guy, so I'm completely biased, but his parents married and divorced each other 3 times.
Oh, he's serious?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, same people. So it's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But we didn't divorce because we didn't get along. It was just circumstance in life and the way things worked. But yeah, that's us. I was reading this book while we were going through this, and I never put those 2 together till right now. So there you go.
Love it.
All right.
That was certainly the challenge, and just everything layered on top of that, just made it more handling the day-to-day and ensuring that everyone's taken care of to begin with, and then putting that on top just makes for a lot.
Yet here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
All right. What's the other one? Challenge and
success.
Okay, you go first on this one.
The success is what I just said. so if we look back over last year, and we had made the comment in 2022, looking back at the previous year, 2021, I said it felt like we had smashed a decade into a couple different years. Same thing goes for this last year. And it was, our conversation started in the beginning of 2022 of kind of starting to just open everything up and say, hey, here's the thoughts that are going through my head. Here's what I'm thinking. We kind of just threw everything up in the air. And like you said, who the heck knows how all that stuff ends up settling?
Yep.
We made the comment several times that you and I had the hard stuff figured out very early on. Then it was just all the technical stuff layered in there is where it got more complicated. Like we did the hard part right away. I knew what I wanted. You knew what you wanted. I knew what I wanted for you and the company. You knew what you wanted for me in the company. So
yep,
I felt like that was all figured out, and or to the degree that we knew. And one thing you and I had said is a measure of success is going to be ensuring that our friendship stays intact. And so that was a huge thing. And
yep.
So that's my success.
We are still friends.
We are still friends.
I think I echo everything you said. I'll add to that in the process of those two things, I also finished writing my book, which and that came out August, I believe. So that was a huge success for me last year, because that was never in the cards for me. I wasn't a person that thought I was going to write a book my entire life. And so on a whim, which is typically how I do things, decided that I was going to write a book and then actually get all the way through that process, because starting things is way easier than finishing things. And I mean, the good news is not only was it a labor of love, but it was a financial labor of love. And so you feel pot committed. And so it was good though, because it made me stay the course. And so professionally, just very proud of that success. And then everything that you added to there. The only other thing I would add is just the people that are at Fiat. When you look at the Fiat team and what you and I just talked about with all the challenges behind the scenes, and to have a team of staff and advisors that went through that whole process with us. And I would argue came out on the other side, not only serving the families as well as we did before, but better than we did before, it's just really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people that have a job and it's just a job, and you go there and you go home and just hope you don't have to think about your job, and, don't look forward to going to work the next day or the challenges that brings. And I just don't think that's true of anybody that works here. And so I think that's a massive success for us, is the culture that we have internally, because that bleeds out into everything that we do for the families we serve.
Right. Yeah. Which a lot of it involves people that are already in place, just stepping into new roles and really knocking it out of the park. And we have both, mutually kind of globbed onto the Jim Collins, great author, wrote good, great, but some of the different language that he'll use is getting the right people on the bus and then finding the right seat.
There's a couple more Jim Collins books right back there.
You go. Yes.
See that?
Love it. So all of that. And I feel really good about that. I know you do. And echo that. Overall,
in the grand scheme of things, 2022 was a super challenging year, probably my most challenging year in business. I think you would agree.
Absolutely.
By far, but also the most rewarding. And it's a cliche these days, but I think it's super true. The most rewarding things in life are the most challenging things. Being a man of faith, one of the things that I constantly try to remind myself is that God doesn't tell us he's going to remove our challenges from us, that he won't give us anything that we can't overcome, but that we need to face these challenges. And the analogy I always get in my head is, when you think about life and the mountaintop experiences that we all want and desire all the time, and there's kind of like these valleys that we go down into, and when we're kind of in spots where things get really tough or challenging or sad or whatever it may be, that when you think about that analogy all the way through, that at the mountaintop it's great, except there's no room for anybody else up there. You're up there by yourself, and nothing grows up there.
Right.
It's destitute. Whereas in the valley, that's where everything is at. It's where all the foliage is at. It's where all the animals are at. It's where it's beautiful. And so there definitely was a lot of challenge this year, but with that came a ton of growth professionally and personally in 2022. And I think we did it again. I think we crammed an entire decade into a year. So it was a great year.
What are we going to do in 2023?
Oh boy. I'm actually going back to college. We'll save that for a different. We'll save that for a different episode. I think that's a great place to leave it, Matt. So with that said, thanks for joining us for our second annual year In review, I'm happy to report to all the listeners, I performed much better this year. I got a big fat F last year. I got a 94% this year.
That's right.
Because percentages matter, obviously. That said, thanks for joining us for another episode of Every Day is Saturday. Matt and I genuinely love doing this. This is a ton of fun for us. We hope you have fun doing it with us. And starting off another year of this podcast. I think this is year 3.
Year 3, technically, yes.
Yep, of the podcast. So that's pretty cool. For those of you who've been with us since day one, we genuinely appreciate it. If you're new to Every Day is Saturday, we would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends, family, however it is that you want to do that. But that said, you can find all the information you want to find on Fiat at our website. That's fiatwm, fiatwm.com. Not only that, but there's a ton of resources out there. We're huge on education and trying to provide as many resources as we can to just the people that we interact with, not just the families we serve, but the people we meet along the way. So check that stuff out there. That said, thanks for joining us, and we will see all of you next Saturday. See you, everybody.